Hey folks, this is Rob Wells here with you from the law office of Robert M. Wells. Our office helps out landlords and property managers deal with their landlord-tenant situations and problems. In this video, we're going to talk about whether or not assigning a lease or subletting a lease is cause for just cause under the Tenants Protection Act of 2019. Now, before I begin though, landlords, property managers, if you have a situation where your tenant may have assigned their lease or subletted their lease or your unit and you need help with that, please feel free to reach out to us below. Now, let's begin. Now, to answer this question about whether or not assigning or subletting a lease qualifies as just cause to terminate your tenancy under the Tenants Protection Act, the answer is yes. The Tenants Protection Act provides that if a tenant either assigns their lease, which is basically meaning you entered into a lease agreement, and then they go, hey, I'm going to give it to John Doe, this third party person, or they sublet the premises, meaning they either like rent out the entire unit to someone else without your knowledge, or even renting out rooms and so forth like that would be considered subletting a property for any duration of time, which is in violation of your written lease or rental agreement. That would qualify as just cause under the Tenants Protection Act of 2019. One caveat that landlords and property managers need to be aware of is this provision must be written in your lease agreement. Your lease must prohibit subletting and or assignment of the lease in order for this to be just cause. Because if your lease is silent to that, in theory, tenant can assign or sublet the property. Basically, so the moral of this story is you need to have a term that prohibits subletting or assignment of the lease. Many leases do have that. I do see some leases though that, they're either typed up by the landlord themselves or they just get something online for free. So that's kind of like a caveat, just, buyer beware in those types of situation. If you're using free leases or leases from someone else that if you don't know the terms of the lease, you could get in trouble. So that being said, one thing people should keep in mind as well with leases as well is if this violation occurs, such as your tenant assigns the lease or sublets the lease, the proper notice to issue would be a 3-day notice to quit, because under the Code of Civil Procedure and under California case law, assigning or subletting a lease is an incurable violation. Once you do it or your tenant engages in this conduct, they cannot cure the conduct, so to speak, under the law. That might be a little bit different and distinguishable from when a tenant is actually living in your property and they may have like an unauthorized occupant living in the property or guests, so to speak. Those are curable violations because, and you would have to use a 3-day notice to perform or quit, basically saying, hey, tenant, we found out that you have this unauthorized person. You have an opportunity to have that person leave to avoid, bringing this lease violation into court. So that's distinguishable than having subletting, assigning is incurable, because once it happens, the tenant can't take it back, versus an unauthorized resident, which is, hey, you have an unauthorized resident. The typical solution is to basically add that person as an authorized resident and getting their information. And if the tenant refuses at that point, then you can move forward with terminating their tenancy. Again, as a reminder, for landlords subject to the Tenants Protection Act, any curable violation requires a 3-day notice to perform. That serves as a warning notice, and then if the tenant doesn't fix the issue, then you have to issue a 3-day notice to quit. So that being said, that's how assignment or subletting a lease is dealt with. And it is just cause under the Tenants Protection Act. So folks, again, if you have this type of issue, you're unsure how you want to handle it or how you should handle it, please feel free to reach out to us below. Until next time, we'll talk to you then. Thanks.